Good morning, everybody. So here we are, day 2 of this series for this week, and today is all about using your diary. So some of you may or may not use diary already, and you might be thinking, why is a diary part of this 5-day series on how to get more out of your week and how to be more productive? So really good question, and it's something that 2 or 3 months ago really started to show the compound effect of what using your diary does in what me and James do. So for those of you who don't use your diary right away, it could be the catalyst that in 6, 7, 8 months you'll have a complete shift of mindset as to how did I not use my diary to plan my week, rather than why do I need it to plan my week. So we're going to have a little bit of a quick deep dive into why using your diary can help, and one of our top tips as to what you can do to get that diary working with you rather than you working for it. So big thing when it comes to using your diary is it's retraining the way you operate and what you do in order to maximize what it is you're getting out of using it as part of your daily or weekly routine. And what I mean by that is it's very easy to use a diary. You can get Google Calendar, you can get iCal or iCalendar on your iPhone. You could get a physical open up diary, so maybe like the Best Self Journal or something along these lines. So there's lots of different forms of a diary or a calendar that you can use. And it is very easy to use them. And because of that, it is also very easy not to use them. Some of you can probably relate to that scenario whereby you make the commitment to using a diary every week, or journaling or writing and scribing, and then 7 to 10 days later that is on the shelf or the app doesn't get opened again, and you go back to what you were doing before because it is a different habit. So it's about retraining, rethinking and revamping the way that you do what you currently do to make it more productive and get more out of it. So using your diary or your calendar is very crucial, and it can make a big difference in how much you get done every week. And I'm not just saying that out of a flippant comment, it's changed the way I use a calendar, the way I structure my week, and how much I get done each and every day. So what I'm going to look at is why you would use a calendar, and then the top tip that I found most impactful in using it to get the most out of what you are doing. So why you want to be using it is because it compartmentalizes everything that you do. And that can be anything from work-related activities to family activities and events. It can be through priorities. Everything that you need to get done, or everything that could fill up or take up some time in your day, needs to be present in your diary. And what that allows you to do is see how busy you actually are. Because some of you, I'm sure, will agree that we tell ourselves that we are busy all the time, and we don't think we've got any spare time to do any more. And we've all been there, and some of us are still there in that place, and that is okay. But what having a diary full with all of these activities does is it highlights exactly what that busyness is full of. Is it wasted, unproductive time, or actually are you as busy as you think and you need some additional help, support, maybe need to start leveraging and outsourcing a few of your items so that you can get more done, which generates more income rather than potentially something that's of a lower income generating task. So it really does allow you to get a clearer picture on what it is you do and what that looks like in terms of results for your working week. So what can we do to start compartmentalizing everything that we've got in our week into our diary? So again, the first thing we need to do is get into the habit of using it. Now, one way you can do this is begin to retrain the way people interact with you. Now, what I mean by that is we're not going to start running courses on how people start to talk to you, whether it's giving you a call or dropping you a WhatsApp, whatever that is. No. What I mean by that is if somebody invites you to something, whether that's an event, a workshop, a meeting, a family event, anything like that, your first response should be, let me check the calendar, which for most of you it normally will be anyway. But the second one would be, that's great, can you invite me on an event in the calendar? And for some people that will sound quite strange. And if it's not normal for somebody to do that, then we need to be inviting them on our calendar to an event. And they might never accept that invitation, but what it will do is it will put it in your calendar and it will show that that individual was invited to it, or if they invited you to it, it's then trained them and started to train them to understand that every time you are invited to an event, to a workshop, to a seminar, etc., it needs to go into your calendar. And the more and more you do this with all of the events, activities, etc. that you are doing, the more people will understand that, okay, it needs to go in your calendar. And before long, it will become a new habit, and people will just know that rather than even asking you, they might just invite you on your calendar to these events with a brief description in the notes section. So you start to retrain people to understand what your calendar is used for and how you like to operate, because what happens otherwise is we try to rely purely on memory recall, and I still do this. When I don't ask people to invite me to an event in a calendar, I forget, or I will double book things, or the thing that is in my calendar is the thing that I prep for and I get done, and the item or the activity or the meeting that I didn't put in my calendar completely forget about it, which is my own fault in the sense of that I know the way I operate best, and that is by putting everything in my calendar, and I didn't do that. So you start to retrain the way people interact with you on certain things. It also allows you to sit down with your nearest and dearest, people who mean the most to you, your business partners or your colleagues, and put key dates in the diary straight away. So every year putting in key dates in the diary so that you know that that is either non-negotiable, it's time that is already pre-booked, and so everything else now fits around all of these items. And anybody who's read Routine Equals Results by Rob Moore, you will know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to putting key dates in your diary. So how can you start to do this? Well, my first point of call on this is actually to read another book which ties into what Rob speaks about in Routine Equals Results, and that is The One Thing. And the biggest thing that I took away from that book is chunking. And chunking and condensing your time into slots allocated to perform specific roles. And so then what you can then do, bringing that into your calendar or your diary, is asking yourself, okay, when am I most productive for these things? So is it better for you to have meetings between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. in that 2-hour window? Because that's when you're most alert, you're most awake, and you're ready to engage with individuals. Is it that you're most productive for getting stuff done task-wise, whether that's admin or various other on-site or in the office tasks, between 1 and 3, because you don't have a carb-filled lunch and actually you're quite energetic after lunch. So that's a great time for you to absolutely crack on and get things done. And it's just about working out via chunking where your time is best suited and then working that into your diary. It might be that you set out your diary into 30-minute slots. It might be hour slots, and that might change and evolve over time. But by chunking down your time into certain categories or certain elements and areas, it allows you to put strategic items, activities, meetings at certain times of the day, because you know that's when it's the best time for you to do them. It also prevents conflicting events getting in the way of each other. So if you've always got things going into the diary, you always know that it's going to be visible, and if somebody tries to book something else in with you, you've got another meeting, etc., etc., you know straight away if or not you can do it. And you just get into the routine of putting all of the items you need to get done into your diary, into sections and allocated time slots. So that is chunking. So the book is called The One Thing, and it's a really, really good book on organisation, getting the most out of your time, being effective, being productive, and allowing yourself to get everything in that you need to get in, but being very strict and rigorous to your structure and getting the most out of that structure each week. So some of you might be thinking, okay, that's great, but what if I don't use a calendar? What if I don't use a diary? It's going to be quite difficult for me to do this. It absolutely will feel like that in the early days, but all we're doing here is just creating a new habit. And you might not start by putting everything in the diary. It might be that you sit down with a business partner or a loved one, maybe it's your husband, your wife, whoever it be, and you put all of your key dates for the next 12 months in your diary. So at least if people ask you to come to different events or to go to do different activities, you've already got time segmented that's non-negotiable, it's already allocated, that you can't book other things around. And then you can gradually build it from there. So it's the analogy of the teacher who has a jar in a class, and he puts loads of large rocks in the jar, and he asks the class, is the jar full? And they all say yes. And then he tips some smaller pebbles into the jar, and then he asks the question again, is the jar full? And they all say yes. Then he puts some really small gravel type stones into the jar. And he keeps going, and then he adds sand, and then he adds water. And it just shows that there's lots and lots of space and time. If we imagine that jar is our diary and our day, for us to get things in. So what we need to get into the routine of is getting the really important things in from day one. So that's everything that involves your family. It might be the key things that you need to do in your business that you have to do every day or every week. And that's not admin, that's not all these smaller fine things, but it's your core values, and it's what drives you to do more. So it might be engagement with people, it might be socializing, it might be something to do about giving back. So get those in first, and then you build everything else around it. So if you're thinking that you haven't got the time, or you don't use a diary, you're not into the routine of using a diary, then start with the really important stuff and just get that into iCal, or all got those on our phones. If you've got an iPhone, iCal comes as standard, and I'm going to assume, I don't have an Android, but I'm going to assume that Google Calendar is as standard on Android as well. So just start with those simple things, because they're the most important to us. We want to make sure we're doing them anyway. So get those in the diary from day one. And then get into the habit and get used to inviting people to those events that you're going with, and just gradually start to build up this new habit of getting people to engage with you or invite you to events, etc., etc., via your calendar. And so you can start to get into the habit yourself as well. You might also be thinking, okay, well, what if I forget things? What if I don't get things done? What if I'm unable to get everything in my diary and I forget? That's okay. Like, just get something started. Just start putting items into your diary, invite people, start retraining the way that they interact with you via a calendar and for events, and then build it up gradually over time. And by reading The One Thing and chunking your time into these slots so that you can allow yourself to get specific tasks done at specific times of the days to achieve certain results, you will gradually get into the habit of it, and before long you won't realise that you ever did without a diary, because it will just be part and parcel of what you do. So really, really top tip there. And if you do read The One Thing, or when you do read The One Thing, drop me a message. Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know what actions or takeaways you've got from that and how you're going to implement that into what you do each day. So get started on this straight away, because the impact of compartmentalizing your time, chunking it into certain sections, and then retraining the way people interact with you and actioning it via a calendar, when you start to get into the momentum behind this, it's really, really powerful. And it doesn't take long. You know, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 2 months, but it happens really, really quickly, and things start to get some momentum behind them and change. And it's very surprising for somebody who's not naturally an organised person. It's very surprising how much you get done just by making this shift into using the diary as the core behind everything else that happens. So hopefully that's of use. Please do read The One Thing and Routine Equals Results by Rob Moore. Have a look at both of those books. Let me know what you think of them. They've definitely changed the way that I operate. Hopefully they will do the same for you. And see if you can start getting into the routine of using your diary to be more productive. That, in conjunction with yesterday's video on a workspace rather than a workplace, see what these actions can start to do for you. And the biggest thing there, or the biggest word that I've used that's the most important, is action. It's just getting started. Just do something very small. Start to make a very small change to get part of this in. Doesn't need to take up a lot of time. It's just about developing a new habit, retraining the way people work with you, and getting the most out of your week via a diary. That's all from me this morning. I hope that's of use. Do let me know what you think of The One Thing and what that book can do for you. And I will see you here again nice and early tomorrow morning. Bye for now.